Hello Lee, it's Kevin from Eggheads here. A little bit hairier than usual, I'm afraid, and I apologise for being quite up against the deadline. I think with just a few hours left. I don't know whether you're putting a quiz together or whatever it is, but this is obviously a fairly random collection of subjects. I'm just going to run through the list and see what we come up with. Just a little, one little thing for each one. Timbuktu. Well, it was a great trading city. Obviously, famously, it became known as somewhere that was very difficult to get to. Hence the phrase, going to Timbuktu is going somewhere very far away. And that's because it was famous as a great trading city from the medieval period onwards. It's in what's now Mali. It came under various African empires for various centuries, and then eventually was in an area that was controlled by France. But now in Mali, great centre of trade and also scholarship, universities, that sort of thing, from about the 14th century onwards, but it declined in later times. Beethoven, what can we say about Beethoven? I can tell you his dates, 1770 to 1827. His work tends to be divided into early, middle and late periods. So from up to about 1802, then 1802 to 12, and then 1812 onwards. And from about 1814 onwards, he was almost completely deaf, so it's amazing that he produced the amazing works that he did. 9 symphonies, 32 piano sonatas, half a dozen piano concertos, as well as works for various other instruments as well. Never married, and actually led a fairly lonely sort of life. Scarlett Johansson, she'll be 40 this year, later on this year. I think probably the thing that maybe surprises some people is that certainly up to when they did the latest calculation, she comes out at number 1 on the list of the most valuable Hollywood stars, in the sense of the box office returns of the films she's been in. When you top them all up, she's actually, when they did the last one, which was at the end of July last year, she was still at the top of that list. Now, whether she still is since, I don't know, because the very next day after that calculation was done, Oppenheimer was released, and Robert Downey Jr., who's in that, was not far behind her on that list of most valuable Hollywood stars. So it's possible that in the intervening several months he might have overtaken. But she's been around since, well, she was a child actress in the sense of her early teens and that sort of thing. So yes, that's her. The hyena. The hyena of the family is called Hyenidae, and there are only 4 species: spotted, striped, brown, and the aardwolf is the other one. And I think I'm right in saying that the one that's got the actual Latin designation hyena for the genus and species is the striped. I'm pretty sure it's the striped hyena. Sea bass. There are loads of fish around the world that are called sea bass in different places. There's about, all around the world, there's something like 30 different species that are called sea bass. The one that we know as sea bass here and that you see on menus is the European sea bass. I'm not sure I can... Yeah, that's the one that the European sea bass, unsurprisingly, is the one that you'll see listed as sea bass throughout Europe, but it's not the same around the rest of the world. Lots of different fish are called that. Now, Transformers is something where you've, especially Transformers cartoon, is something where this is something a bit like the wrestling coming up as well, which is not really things on my my radar particularly, not things that interest me at all. I think there have been about... Obviously, Transformers is a major franchise of films and cartoons and comics and all of that. And I think there have been about 4, over the years, animated series of Transformers, most of which I think have been American, Japanese co-productions. But beyond that, I'm pushing it a bit, really. I think there was the original one maybe was back in the, when the whole Transformers thing started back in the late 80s. I think it was then. And then there was another one in the 2000s, and then a couple perhaps more recently. But I'm struggling with Transformers, I'm afraid. Cup Winners' Cup. Well, it started in season 60-61, and the last season of it was 98-99. The last winners were... the first winners, I believe, were Fiorentina, I think. And the last winners were certainly Lazio, so Italian teams bookending. I think something like 7 English teams won it, as well as Rangers and Aberdeen. First English team to win it was my own, Spurs, just saying. And I think the only English team to win it more than once is Chelsea, because they certainly won the penultimate one in 98. I think that they had won it before. Anything else to say on that one, really? Although Barcelona won it the most times. They won it 4 times. Stratford, just south of Salford, used to be a sort of market town for the Manchester area, and it actually, because of the number of pigs that were raised there for the Manchester market, it was actually nicknamed Porkhampton for a while. Manchester Ship Canal runs through it. I think I said it's just south of Salford. Various famous people have lived there, like L.S. Lowry and Emmeline Pankhurst and Morrissey and others. The WWE Royal Rumble. Well, it happens, and we're doing this in mid-January, it happens in late January. It's one of the WWE's so-called Big 5 annual events. And I think what it involves, because I have no interest in wrestling whatsoever, I think what it involves is... it's based on something called Battle Royale, where you've got lots of people in the ring at the same time. I think with this one, the idea is that people, they come in at timed intervals rather than all being in there at the start. But again, that's a subject I would struggle with, quite honestly. And leprechauns. Well, leprechauns, I mean, they're Irish folklore. They're not really anything to do with Irish mythology, real ancient Irish mythology. They're creatures, if you like, that have grown up in folklore over the centuries, often seen to be shoemakers, cobblers, and the story grew up about them having this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So hence things like the story and film Finian's Rainbow, the Disney film, based on that. They're often shown as little bearded men, and they're mischief makers, and they've just become a cliche which doesn't go down well in all quarters in Ireland, I think. What else they've got? Well, they've become, in the way that Irish Americans adopt these things, they've become a symbol of St. Patrick's Day and all the rest of that in the States particularly. And one of the most famous American college football teams, Notre Dame, one of the most historic, successful college teams, they have a leprechaun as their mascot, called Lucky Luke or something like that. So I hope those various things off the top of my head are helpful. As I say, I'm not quite sure what the origin of this is, but if you are putting a quiz together or something like that, then good luck with that, and all the best.